So let's continue our exploration of the basics. So one of the things that we discovered as we've done this work is that there are several places where we all get stuck in common. And one of these places is resistance. When we think we're a separate individual, we have preferences. We want things, good things to stay and bad things to go away. And we want life to go the way we think it should. And it doesn't happen that way. Life just simply does what it does. So how most of us go through life is with a tremendous amount of resistance. We resist the good and we resist the bad. We resist the good so it will slow down and stay, and it doesn't work. And we resist the bad so we can get rid of it. And that, unfortunately, that seems to work better. Not that the resistance to the bad doesn't get rid of it, but it does seem to work to resist the bad to make it persist. And we don't notice that this doesn't work. So we just think we haven't resisted enough. That's usually our solution. You know, resistance to life isn't working because I just haven't resisted long enough or hard enough or with enough intention. And resistance is also like going through life with your one foot on the accelerator and the other foot on the brake. And it tears us apart inside because it requires all this extra effort just to simply be. And it's not necessary because it's just a feeling based on our belief that we're this separate individual that has to get everything its way. And that belief that everything has to be my way causes resistance. And plus, because we want the good stuff to persist and the bad stuff to go away, we're resisting the fact that life is like this. Life is a constant ebb and flow. And we're trying to slow it down. But the one thing that I can guarantee you about life is it constantly is in motion. It's constantly changing. And if you resist that motion, that change, it's as effective as trying to stop the tides. I don't know, hopefully none of you have ever tried to stop the tides. But if you notice sometimes in life, that's how we are. We're like, I don't want the next tide to come. Well, life doesn't really care. Things have their own rhythm. Life is just living itself, basically. And so resistance is this energy that's in most of us as we mature into adulthood. You notice how little children resist? They're just with whatever's happening in the moment. They experience what's happening now, and they experience what's happening now, and they experience what's happening now, and they experience what's happening now. But we as adults, we experience what's happening now, and we're still processing the experience that the next experience is happening. And we're resisting the fact that there's a new experience happening because I haven't finished processing the old experience. And I have a whole other idea of how life should be going in this moment, and it's not doing it my way. And it has some nerve. So this feeling of resistance, though, does nothing constructive. Even if there's something in life that you want to avoid, resisting it actually will attract you to it. So internal resistance. Now, of course, there's some resistance required to exercise, for instance. There wouldn't be any exercise otherwise. Natural resistance in the flow of life is normal. But the resistance that we generate inside of us is completely unnecessary and can be released very easily. And so let's do a little releasing on resistance. So allow yourself to think of something about life that you resist. It could be about your friends, your relatives, your body, your mind, society, politics. I'm sure there's something in there you're resisting. And if there's any resistance in this moment, could you just simply welcome it? Could you let it be there? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of that feeling of resistance? Would you? When? And focus on that same thing or anything else in your life that you've been resisting. And could you just simply welcome the resistance? Could you let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let that feeling of resistance go? Just could you? Would you? When? And focus on that again. Focus on that same thing or anything else that you've been resisting. And could you welcome that feeling of resistance? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of that feeling of resistance? Could you just set it free? Would you? When? Okay. Now, just doing a little releasing on resistance, notice how differently you feel. It takes just a little bit, it goes a long way. And if you just start releasing a little bit of your resistance to life and in life, you'll find your whole world changes. Because to quote the Borg, and those of you who are Star Trek fans, resistance is futile. Because life is just going to be as it is. And our resistance to it, it's like we actually feel like we're being dragged behind the bus. And or dragged behind the train, hitting each, you know how train tracks have those wooden, what are they called? Ties, yeah, the railroad ties. So most of us are hitting each tie as we're resisting going through life. And without the resistance, what you discover is life is just a flow. It's like a river. It's really like a river, and it carries you. And it's always carrying you. And some of us go through life trying to swim against the current or trying to grip every rock that we pass. And we wonder why we're getting buffeted around by life. But as you let go of that feeling of resistance, as you recognize the truth of who you are, then what you discover is that you're always being carried by life. That river is already flowing through all experience. And all the resistance does is create a sense of turmoil in the river, but it doesn't stop the river. Nothing does. It just flows. So I highly recommend that you let go of resistance. And another very common place where we all get stuck is wanting to change what is. We want things to be different than the way they are. Again, we have this belief that God or Goddess actually cares what we think. That the universe is very concerned about our well-being. But the universe and us are not separate, first of all. So it's not, and again, you've probably probably everyone watching this or sitting here has seen the movie The Secret. And in the movie The Secret, they talk about this genie that you can basically rub its belly and it gives you whatever you want. Life isn't like that. And I'll talk more about that later. But in my experience, if you're wanting to change the way life is, all you're doing is you're making what you don't want persist. And you're holding what you do want away. And how it works is very simple. Something in our life happens that we don't like. And we say to ourselves, I hope this never happens again. We want to change it, so we want it to never happen again. Or we have a fight with our husband or our wife, and we want to change that we had the fight. So then we're busy thinking about it, and we're wanting that not to have another fight. So have you ever noticed, does that really actually work? No, because we're wanting to change it. So when we're wanting to change the way life is, what happens is we have to keep recreating the same experience over and over again until we can successfully change it. But what happens when you let go of wanting to change it, then what happens is you get the answer to the serenity prayer. And I never remember it, so I'm not going to try to quote it. But basically what happens, the gist of it is, when you let go of wanting to change it, the things that you can change, you just change. The things you can't change, you allow to be the way they are naturally by letting go of wanting to change them. And as you let go of wanting to change it, you can actually tell the difference between things that are changeable and things that aren't. But when you're wanting to change what is, you can't tell the difference. And so letting go of wanting to change what is allows you to change it when appropriate and to allow it to be the way it is when it's appropriate. And it also is a huge relief. We spend so much time wanting to change the way life is that we don't really appreciate it. We don't enjoy it. We don't really fully experience the beauty of what's here now because we're wanting it to be different. You know, we want that greener grass that's somehow going to grow over there, or over there, or over there. But what we forget is, I've heard this quote, and again, I don't remember who I'm quoting here. We think that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. That's what we've been told in geometry. And from a geometric progression, that's absolutely true. But if you look at it from a different way, the shortest distance between two points is here. And that's a very different way of looking at it. And so when you recognize that you are already here and this is the way it is, then you don't need to change it. But that doesn't mean that you're stuck with anything. The exact opposite is true. It's opposite of the way the mind thinks. The mind thinks it needs to want to change everything, otherwise nothing's going to turn out right. But you'll find as you let go of wanting to change things, then things just seem to get more and more harmonious, get easier and easier. Life can just simply flow. So let's do some releasing on wanting to change things. So allow yourself to think of something in your life that you've been wanting to change. It could be your wife, your husband. I always like to throw those in. Your bank account, your body, your neighbors, the way society is, politics, anything. And in this moment, could you allow yourself to welcome any wanting to change it? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to change it? Would you? When? And then could you allow yourself to focus on that same thing or anything else that you've been wanting to change? And then could you allow yourself to welcome the wanting to change it? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to change that? Would you? When? And focus on that again. In this moment, could you just think of something in your life that you've been wanting to change? And then could you welcome that feeling of wanting to change it? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to change it? Could you just set that free? Would you? When? Okay, good. Now again, if you were doing this on your own, you would keep letting go of wanting to change it until you felt that feeling of acceptance that arises naturally as you let go of wanting to change it. Now, I'm not saying could you accept it, because so many people have said that to you. You should just accept that the way it is. And yes, they're absolutely correct. But as soon as you turn acceptance into a should or a shouldn't, you get yourself into trouble. Because acceptance is what's natural when you recognize the truth of who you are and as you let go, especially as you let go of wanting to change things. But if you try to make yourself accept, you'll resist that. You'll just fight with it. So yes, that's an outcome, but you don't need to make it happen. It will happen all by itself. The other thing about letting go of wanting to change things is if you're ever struggling with any part of the Sedona method in any way, if you just simply let go of wanting to change the struggle, the effort, the stuckness, you'll find that you'll be right back on track again. So step 5 of the Sedona method, if you're stuck, could you let go of wanting to change the stuckness? So stuckness is just any time where you're struggling with letting go or struggling with life. And so you can always let that go anytime you want to by just simply letting go of wanting to change it. Another place where we get stuck is we live in a world that doesn't really value the wisdom of the heart. It's much more focused on reason, on what we think, on wanting to understand or figure things out. Now, is there anything wrong with clear reason? Of course not. But there are certain things that reason is helpful with, and there's certain things where it's not. Reason, for instance, is not very helpful in relationships, in case you haven't noticed. Reason is not very helpful with letting go. And when we're wanting to get a reasonable answer, when we're wanting to figure it out, it keeps us stuck. And in fact, in my experience, if we have a problem that we've been wanting to figure out, part of the reason we're stuck with the problem is because we've been wanting to figure it out. One of the things I've seen over and over and over and over and over again, just by simply letting go of wanting to figure out why we have the problem disappears. Because that was the only thing holding it in place, is our wanting to figure it out. In fact, in my experience, the only reason that we want to understand our problems is because we're planning to have them again. If we weren't planning to have that same problem again, would we need to figure it out? Would we need to understand it? Of course not. So one of the things that we can do to help ourselves in life and to help ourselves with letting go is to let go of wanting to figure it out, let go of wanting to understand it. Now, am I saying there's anything wrong with understanding? No. What you'll find is when you're wanting to understand something or wanting to figure it out, you're looking for the answer in the mind and into the past. You're not really looking at what's here now. And so what happens is when you let go of wanting to understand it, when you let go of wanting to figure it out, you're opening yourself to clear reason and intuitive knowingness. And the more you do that, the more you're opening yourself to that. And also there are certain times where it's appropriate to want to figure it out. If you're learning math, for instance, and you're trying to figure out how to do a particular equation, then some wanting to figure it out is appropriate. Where it gets in our way is in how we live life. We're often wanting to figure out how to live life as opposed to just simply living it. So if you let go of wanting to figure out how to live, you'll just simply find yourself living naturally and easily and spontaneously. So, and especially our wanting to figure out our problems doesn't help. Yes, insights are great, and you'll have lots of them as you let go. But what's much more powerful than trying to get an insight is to let go first. Sometimes I've seen so many people want to hold on to the feeling until they get the answer. And in my experience, that doesn't work. You don't have to hold on to your suffering until you figure out why you're suffering. Let go of your suffering. Once you let go of your suffering, if you need to know, if you need an insight or you need to know where it came from, for instance, it will come to you naturally and spontaneously. So let's do some releasing on wanting to figure it out. So allow yourself to think of one of your favorite problems. One of the ones that you've been trying to figure out why it's there or what you should do about it. And could you just simply welcome that wanting to figure it out, that wanting to understand it? Again, if you're not sure about letting this go, remember, would you rather understand why you have this problem, or would you rather just be free of it? So again, could you welcome any wanting to know, any wanting to figure it out? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to know? Could you let go of wanting to figure it out? Would you? When? And focus on that same problem or some other problem that you've been struggling with, you've been trying to solve. When we're wanting to figure out a problem, we keep recycling the same information over and over and over again, not noticing we're not getting anywhere. So when you let go of wanting to figure things out, often all these insights will just come spontaneously. So in this moment, could you welcome your wanting to figure it out, your wanting to understand it? Could you just let it be here? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to figure it out, of wanting to know, of wanting to understand? Would you? When? And let's do that one more time. Focus on that same issue or some other issue that you've been trying to solve with your mind. You've been looking for the answers in the past. You've been recycling data over and over and over and over again, hoping you'll get a different outcome you've been wanting to figure out. And could you just simply welcome that wanting to understand, that wanting to figure it out? And then as best you can, just for now, could you let go of wanting to figure it out? Would you? When? Okay, great. So, just to make sure I'm clear here, there's nothing wrong with having the answer. There's nothing wrong with knowing. In fact, your basic nature has always clear reason available to it, and intuitive knowingness comes right from inside of you. But when we're wanting to figure it out, when we're wanting to know, when we're wanting to make sense out of it, we're spinning. We're looking for the answer where it isn't. So when you let go of wanting to figure it out, both with releasing and in your life, you'll find that you'll get more insights. Things will be clearer. Things will be easier. So I just highly recommend that you let go of wanting to figure things out.